Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show for your Thursday edition. Yes, the throat feels a lot better. Thank you for asking. It was a rough one, man. Talking for 8 hours straight is brutal on the old throat. Anyway, we're feeling a little bit better today, and feeling better because of this nice market about face. Remember we talked yesterday about the taco trade and how all of a sudden that just whipped things the other way. Felt like we'd have a continuation. Unfortunately, my entry prices didn't get hit. I was looking to make some day trades on S&P. That didn't happen. And also, was I going to add to some Amazon. And because of the way we gapped up on Amazon, didn't make those trades either. But I still have positions on Amazon and Tesla, which did great today. We'll talk about those. But let's talk about this data delight, the buffet of wild market data that, talking to Colin Tedder the other day, we both agreed like the data looks really good. And today you had further substantiation of that, which I thought was interesting. I was a little bit nervous on GDP numbers, but I'll start with the unemployment claims. I think that the market has kind of shrugged off some of the data we got earlier this week. You guys might remember that on Tuesday, we had the ADP employment change, and that number went from 11,300 to 8,000. A decline, which isn't horrible, but still, I feel like the market's kind of shrugged that one off. If we go and look at the unemployment claims today, those were better than expected, but they actually did go up. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here. You can see the expectation was 209,000, up from 199, so increase about 10,000 unemployment claims. We came out at 200,000, so a slight increase. I guess for me anyway, the good news here is, for really 4 weeks in a row, this is a weekly report, we've been kind of stuck right around that 200 mark, which is great. We'd like to stay down there, if not lower. And I'll show you out even more long-term kind of where we stand historically, going all the way back into, let's say, 2022. We're back down to those lows. We had some real low points back here in 2022 when we saw unemployment claims dip all the way down to, what's that number there? It's not even giving that number to me. It's so low. 166 was the low there back in April 7th of 2022. And since then, we really haven't been that low. So this is a pretty good sign to see unemployment claims drop as it is. You guys know the trend is your friend till the bend at the end. And we've been watching this fall from September 18th, the week of September 18th of last year, just lower, 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 lower. So all in all, that's a great sign for a first piece of data when I look at my graphic here of the unemployment claims. The second part I think is even better, and that was the U.S. GDP, gross domestic product, right? What are we actually doing from a production standpoint? Now, I'm not smart enough. I'm not like John O'Donnell, who would be able to look at this from a macroeconomic perspective and say, okay, I can see the different market segments and how it all ties together. I'm just looking at it as growth, right? That actually looks pretty good. So here's the final GDP numbers. Of course, you guys know we have the advanced, we have the preliminary, and then the final. So this is a quarterly reading. However, we've had 3 readings already, right? We've had the advanced, we had the preliminary, so we had an idea of where we're going to stand with regards to GDP. The good news is expectations were we're going to come out at 4.3%. We came out at 4.4. Now, here is your historical look at GDP going all the way back into 2001, the space odyssey, when we were down in sub-zero. All in all, it looks pretty good. The only thing I would, complain about here was that little dip we had back in June of last year. Other than that, it feels positive. You're seeing higher GDP than expected, which is great. We want to see higher economic growth. And, when you look at the historical norm, I'm not sure of these statistics, so I can't, be the judiciary here. But, if we're right around, let's call it 4%, right? Right now we're at 4.4 annually. If that's, or for the quarter, if that's the case, what's the historical norm? Looking at this chart, it would appear to me that we're above historical norms, at least going back the last 26 years. So I'm okay with that. It looks pretty good. Big Eb says GDP 5s are coming. It would appear that way, right? I don't think it'll be next quarter, but if we continue to get more trade expansion and weaker dollar, I think our GDP numbers could start to get above 5%. Now, we're probably not going to get up to the China levels of the past, which are over 10%, but all in all, this is a pretty good sign for the economy. And the reason I'm bringing this up is if GDP continues to roll and go from 4.4 to 4.6 to maybe to 4.8, and as Big Eb says, maybe get to 5% or higher, you've got to look at this market from a bullish perspective. Where's Oliver? Where's Oliver? You heard me say it again, Oliver. I get no credit when I say positive things about the market, but he certainly likes to slam me when I say negative things. You can't help but to think that this trend is going to continue as long as this data continues to look good, right? The stronger GDP comes in, that means more domestic production. That's great. The more consistent we see unemployment claims stay right around 200,000 or lower, that's a sign that the job market isn't in turmoil like many people have been forecasting, including myself, right? I'm in that camp of maybe not this year or in the next couple months, but I think in the next few years we're going to see significant unemployment. The fact is, though, it's not now. And right now things are looking pretty darn juicy. So I wanted to go back to, where's my table here? There it is. I started building out the Fed scorecard again just to see where we stand, and hopefully this is visible to everybody out there. And I've got 5 kind of key variables. If you'd like another variable added to this, please let me know, and I'm happy to add on another row here. But right now I've got 5 rows on this bad boy. We have consumer price index, producer price index, PCE. So those top 3 all are inflationary measures. Of course, PCE is the most significant one in the eyes of the Fed. You have unemployment rate and you have GDP. Not sure if you guys want something else added to this, but again, I'm happy to do that. But right now, the only one that I don't like is that CPI number. That consumer price index is sitting at 0.3. Remember, if you annualize that, that means you're looking at an inflation rate for consumers of 3.6%, which of course would be well above the Fed's mandate. Now, according to the core PCE numbers, our inflation right now in the United States is 2.8%. Remember, the Fed said they want 2%? Well, they didn't say 2 point what. My assumption is, and I believe it's still that way, that the Fed wants to get down to 2% even, which would mean that we are still running hot with regards to inflation at 2.8%. Other than that, we had a little pop-up here in the unemployment rate for December. The January data, which of course is December's data, dropped us back down to 4.4%. This is probably the one that I will be watching the most this year, is going to be the unemployment and PCE, right? Those two, I think, obviously from the Fed's dual mandate, that's what's going to be driving their decision. Trump says inflation is 0. Yeah, he says a lot of things that make you roll your eyes and go, come on, dude, that's not possible or not right. To be fair, some things do have inflation of 0. Some components do. Then there's others that have much higher inflation. He could probably make the argument that oil has deflation going on, right, because of its price trajectory. But as a whole, I think we all would agree that he is incorrect in making that statement that inflation is 0. But, there's people who latch onto those words and believe every single thing is said. I'm looking at this, and I can't help but to think, what's the Fed viewing here, right? What is the Fed going to say at that FOMC meeting next week? Next week, I'm going to have Bill Addis on the program, by the way, on Wednesday. I was trying to get Larry on the program, but Larry just can't make it the entire month. That's how busy this guy is. He's just slammed. Cannot get him on the show. I wanted to have him on at least in January to give a forecast. The good news is I'll maybe have some other guests on, but we shall see how it all transpires. All right, so from the FOMC, the Federal Reserve perspective, I am definitely in the camp of they're not going to cut. I think that they did what they wanted to do at the end of the year. They gave us a little excitement, a little pump for the market, although it didn't really come through from a Santa Claus rally perspective. But I think they're going to pause, and I think most people are expecting that. You can see right now the expectation, the money is betting that there's a 95% chance they're going to keep rates right where they're at, which is between 3.5 and 3.75. So there we go. That is probably where we're going to stay. There is a 5%, if you're betting on the long shot here, you have a 5% chance that there is going to be a rate cut next week on the 28th. I just don't see that happening. It's not going to happen. I'm not sure what you mean by EC2. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by EC2 or ECLLII. I don't know what that is, Jeff, but give me some clarity and I'll respond. Larry's probably still celebrating his He probably is. He probably hasn't recovered yet. Man, I would imagine him just screaming and yelling all day on that bad boy. That had to be exciting for old Larry getting Indiana. And honestly, what a season. From a team that nobody really thought was going to be anything to go not only win the state the national championship, but to do so undefeated, I mean, that's pretty dang impressive. Pretty awesome. Anyway, so right now, looking at this scorecard, I think things look rosy. Big Ed, what do you want added to this one? Would you want another category? I was trying to think of what else might be pertinent for decisions from the Fed, and I don't think retail sales would matter, so I kept retail sales. I thought maybe adding a home variable, right? So we could look at the the home prices, etc. here. But I don't know. I just couldn't find a category that I thought would be nice to add in as a sixth component to wage growth. So would you use personal income? Right? Use the personal income numbers for that one? I guess we could do that. I don't know. This is democratic here. It's maybe existing home sales. Boy, by the way, the existing home sales numbers this week were just really like, oh boy, that was not what I expected to see. Pending home sales. I think we talked about it, just dropped off a cliff. Here you go, the pending home sales. This is not good, and I don't know what to make of this. Is this a one-off drop? Does this have to do with mortgage rates? Is this just people waiting to see what the future holds and thinking that rates might go lower? I don't know, but this is pretty wild. Seeing such a giant decline in pending home sales. We'll see what that means down the road. All right. Well, you guys let me know. I'll look through there. I see wage growth, existing home sales, but like when I look at this machine of existing home sales, I don't believe that the Fed is out there looking at existing home sales. I don't think that that's a factor for them. Now, maybe the bond yields, right? Maybe we could put the 30-year bond yield and just kind of do it on a once a month or 10-year, do the 10-year bond and see if, because I have a feeling that would be something that the Fed is looking at, right? If yields get too high, then they'll try to do something to modify or manipulate those. But, now Ollie shows up. Now that I said all my positive things about the market, I can go back to saying negative stuff. Thanks for joining us, Oliver. Yeah, went to UI. Yeah, as he should be. My alma mater doesn't have any sports. My alma mater, you guys might remember Larry Allen. Guys remember Larry Allen? The superstar for the Dallas Cowboys. Big, monstrous, one of the greatest Cowboy defensive guys. He was went to my school. The last year they had a football team. Now they don't. Home sales, uncertain futures, and some fear. Okay. I'm not against the home stuff. I'm just trying to think, Ken, of what the Fed would be looking at in formulating their opinion, because this is the slide here is Fed scorecard. So I think this is the stuff that the Fed's going to be looking at. They always talk about jobs. They always talk about unemployment claims. They always talk about inflation and GDP. So we've got those covered. I just thought there might be something else you guys want added here. One more task for me to keep track of and look at for you. So all in all, I think this pretty much sets the tone. We don't have any reason for the Fed to cut, right? The economic data is looking good. GDP is rising. So we feel like we've already got enough stimulus in the economy to get GDP running. The big question I have is, in that increase in GDP, what caused it? Was it just outright, elbow grease and people working and driving the markets up? Was it lax policy? Was it tariffs? Where are the impact in GDP that drove it up from 4.2 to 4.4 and potentially even higher than that? So, tariffs certainly could be a big factor for GDP, but who knows? I don't know how this increase exactly has been measured. And because we have so many variables changing right now, it makes it difficult to calculate that one out. It was a toughie. All right, back from the scorecard. What else did I see here? I don't think the Fed cares about home sales. Well, I think they do, but I don't think it's a determining factor in their rates, right? They're certainly looking at it. Institute of Supply Management, PMI. Employment cost index gave you labor costs. It's the same prices. Okay. I can see that one. Employment cost index. I'll mull it over. See if I want to add that to the list. All right. Let's go back up to... I guess I should do some gratuitous plugs here. Let me find a link for you guys. And I'm usually not a big promoter, but I was invited to speak at the Money Show's Virtual Expo. Yes, they are doing a virtual expo. They do a few of these a year, and they always invite me in to speak one or two things here. I think that this may actually be a conflict with the show, so I may actually not do the show, and I may do the this presentation instead. So let me see if I can find for you the link for this bad boy, because some of you may want to watch it. Some of you, especially those of you who are in crypto. Let me see. Where was it? Now, of course, I'm trying to find this stuff on the fly, and it's just not working. All right, well, I won't give you the link. I'll give it to you tomorrow. This is going to be, I think it's the 27th I'll be doing this one. That's the Tuesday. Yeah, it's the next Tuesday I'll be doing it. So I got tomorrow to figure it out to see what that link is for you guys. But yeah, next Tuesday. I'm not sure of the time. It looked like it was actually right during the show. So I think it is free, Steve. I think you just have to register. I think it is. I'll give you a link tomorrow. She gave me a whole bunch of links, but right now I'm just like drawing blanks on where to find the link that she just sent me. Like she literally just sent it to me, and for some reason it's just not in my list. Maybe here it is. Okay, I got it. Social media. There's the post. Let's see. I think it's free, but I'm not 100% sure. There's the link to it. Let me click it over here and see what that is. I'm hoping it's free. It should be free. Yeah, register for free. So there's the page, crypto scams, and it's from 1:55, of course, right as the show starts. So next Tuesday, guys, no show. I'll be doing this one instead. 1:55 to 4:25. So basically, I'll be doing right as this show starts. Unfortunately, but hey, got to do PR stuff when I can get it. So I'll be doing that one for them, and then February 21st, which is a Sunday. If anybody's going to be in Vegas, I will be on a panel. February 22nd. I will be on a panel in Las Vegas talking about digital assets, tokenization, cryptocurrencies. That will be a 3-hour panel discussion, and I'm not sure. You have to go to the Traders Expo there. I'm not sure if it's free or what that is. And then I also have 3 other presentations I'll be giving in Las Vegas, and I'll let you guys know about those coming up here. But that will be February 22nd through 25th. I have a 2-hour paid session on tokenization on Monday, the 23rd, and then I don't know when the other presentations are, but I'll let you know as we get closer to that. And I probably need to update my mug, because back in that one, I had a less gray hair. Still got the same wrinkles, though. Still got the same damn wrinkles going on. All right, anyway. I'll move away from the gratuitous self-promotion and go back to some of the other market factors driving right now, which are going to be the discussion that we brought up yesterday, that I talked about yesterday, which is it's starting to be a growing concern for me, is the disconnect between equities and commodities. Today was a great example of that. Today you had a nice move up in the S&P, pretty much all in a gap, right? You saw SPX, you had a big old gap, but we can look at S&P futures here. Nice green candle, gave back some in the end of the session, but all in all, gained 0.51%. Not bad. We'll take it. But you look at what gold did today. Gold is up 1.57%, continuing this monstrous run. Again, that hedge, that flight to security, seems to be increasing. And one is going to break. And we go and talk about this yesterday. Big Ed was talking about shorting natural gas. Well, there's a lot of people have been sending me questions about shorting gold and shorting silver. And look, I did take a chance at shorting silver a couple weeks ago just because it went parabolic outside of Bollinger Band. It didn't make sense. It was profitable for about 2 days, and then the options expired worthless because it just kept on rallying on SLV. But both of these markets, silver is up 3.78% today, breaking all-time highs yet again. Sounds like a broken record story here for silver. But until I get a big extension outside of a Bollinger Band on a big gap, I'm probably going to leave this one alone. I do want to short it. Big Eb says gold 5,000 and silver 100 this month. Could very easily happen. How many days this month, you say? Ooh, boy. Let's take a look at the probability, the realisticness of that. If we go from where we are right now to $100 and do that this month, which means it's got to close on January 30th, you're looking at about a 15% move up in silver in the next, week. Looking at that trend. Oh, you said silver $100 this month. Oh, the silver futures. Okay, all right, fine. We got the details because they're talking about the future. We're already there. Yes. If it doesn't, I'd be surprised, right? I mean, that's only going to be 1% away, 3%. So you'd have to have a 3% rally in silver, 4% rally between now and the end of the month. Yeah, pretty clear that would be pretty achievable. Now you're going to be going to gold futures, which I have up here. Let's go to the GC. You said gold 5,000. Yeah, gold 5,000 hit tomorrow. I mean, the way this thing has been moving, I mean, gold it's only 2% away. We were up 1.57% today. Yeah, could happen very, very soon. It's just, I don't want people to jump onto these metals right now because of how crazy they've gotten. The gentleman yesterday was saying, time to buy silver, and I was like, well, you look at the chart. I'll go back to the silver futures for you, Big Eb. You look at that chart, it's like, would you want to be buying right now? Even if you thought it was going up, it's still, the risk is just so high on those situations. So yeah, I wouldn't want to be jumping on this one right now, but I do think you're going to see it hit 100 by the end of the month. Certainly on the futures. On SLV, not sure about that. That's a bit of a price increase. But even if we go back to that one, let's look at the trajectory, right? I'm a big fan of the trend is your friend to the bend at the end, as you know. If I look at the angle of this ascent, it does look very plausible that it could get there, right? Even if I put something on here like a simple moving average, you're seeing the rate of acceleration increase, and getting to 100 for SLV by the end of the month, I don't believe it will, but I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility because that trend is so strong. What you're going to get is a blow-off top. All right, for those who don't know, a blow-off top is that moment where everybody and their mother is jumping into this investment because they're hearing about it and it's making headlines across the board, which sounds just like silver or natural gas right now, right? I mean, talk about the most popular one. Silver is without a doubt the most talked about item in the financial markets right now, other than the Magnificent Seven and all that's doing. So it could certainly continue up. Now, yeah, Jeff talked about natural gas futures. Well, let's look at natural gas today. This was a wild one. I mean, at one point, this thing had another massive gain. So if you want to go from a percentage perspective, at one point today, natural gas was up another 15%. Now, to put that in perspective, that means that from its low, just back here on January 16th, last Friday, that means that natural gas has rallied 87% in 3 trading sessions. Ridiculous, right? Natural gas did give up some today, but it still is showing a positive gain at 3.49%. So ridiculous. Now, Big Ed, you were joking facetiously, I gathered from yesterday about shorting natural gas. Now it looks more appealing from a short perspective for me, right? I'm a big fan of this one because I have now a framework to map out a trade here, and I could say, all right, if we break this 477 mark to the downside, then the pullback's gonna be much bigger. The fact that we sold off so much off of that peak, I mean, what natural gas is pricing in my opinion, is like the ice age in the West East Coast. It's just such a wild move in such a short period of time, and I'm hearing lots of reports that it could be hundreds of thousands of people without power and without natural gas. Hey, come to California, folks. All of y'all on the East Coast that talk so much trash about how bad California is, you know what we don't have? Ice. I'm complaining today because my weather out here in Southern California is so atrociously bad. It rained here today. We had drizzle, and 63 degrees. 63 degrees. That's why Snoop Dogg carries an umbrella. Faux drizzle. Anyway, that's why he lives out in California. So yeah, this to me is just completely blown out of proportion. This is, I believe, just herd mentality and chaos. I don't see it being that bad. Last time we talked about this as well, they were having a nor'easter, right? We had the nor'easter going through, and when that happened, it was in December. And it said it's going to go through December 26th. And look what happened last time we had a nor'easter. You actually saw natural gas prices collapse. So, I don't know. This just seems like straight manipulation. Liz says, no, but you have fires or earthquakes, though. Yeah, we do. Earthquakes are fun. Normally people pay to go to a amusement park and ride roller coasters. We get them for free. Now, there's certain places that you would experience more of that. I don't usually get really bad earthquakes here. Like when an earthquake, if it's like a 1 or a 2, maybe a 3. I think last time that was here that was decent was like a 3.4. And you kind of look around for a second and think, is the house going to stand? 30 seconds later, it's all over and you're done. Move on. So yeah, I'll take an earthquake over a tornado or a hurricane. No, I'm good. Exactly. Big Evan, I said the same thing at the same time. I'll take an earthquake versus tornado. Absolutely, yeah. No question there. And at some point, we might get that big 7-0, 8-0 again, and then it'll be a different conversation. But they're so far and few between, I'm not too worried about it. Liz is headed to Hawaii early Saturday, so I was hoping to get out before weather. I hope you do. I hope you get out before all that stuff comes up. Rob says, what goes up must come... What goes down much go up. I think you mentioned it backwards, which is what goes up must come down. That's what I'm looking at here with natural gas. So those are kind of your major market movers here. I'll run through our top 8. Oh, actually, no, let me go back to the bottom. I don't know if you guys caught the news today, but Elon Musk did a surprise speech at Davos, which I did listen to live. That was not live, but I listened to the recording of it. Very interesting. Very interesting, his comments. My opinions to you guys have been that this optimist thing and robo-taxis and driverless vehicles and AI are going to take Tesla to the stratosphere. It's going to be the next monstrous big move up. Big Eb and I both thanking Elon today. I was actually kind of hoping I would have been put my shares. It's not out of the woods yet. You guys know I sold the 432.50 puts on Tesla. I got a few of them, not a giant position, but certainly enough to make a great chunk of change for the week. Those will expire this Friday at 432.50. That's a line on your screen there. But really, just in a couple of days, Tesla's gone from below $420 to over $450. And we're back down just a little bit now. I think it's at 448 in the after-hour session here. But that's the power of a man's comments. And basically what he said at Davos was, we are going to be, next year, the Optimus robot should be available for public sale. I can't even talk to you. The Optimus robot should be available for public sale next year. So to me, that is a giant positive comment by Elon Musk. Now, he does have a history of making promises of deadlines that don't get achieved. But I think maybe he's calmed that down a little bit. I mean, some of the things I've seen recently with the Optimus robot do make me believe that they're going to be safe for human usage, meaning folding my laundry, cleaning my baseboards. I looked at my baseboards today. I'm like, man, when was the last time those things were cleaned? Optimus, clean my baseboards. And when you're done with that, fold my laundry. And when you're done with that, take Yoa for a walk, because I can't walk that slow anymore. My poor dog is just barely moving. So Wolf says he hasn't met a deadline yet. I'm betting on him making it this time. So I do think next year you'll start to see Optimus robots being rolled out. And the comments he made at Davos, I don't know if you guys heard it, I would encourage you to go check it out, because some people hate him. They just despise Elon Musk. I feel that there's this sense of altruism there in the things he's trying to accomplish for the sake of humanity. Larry Fink, by the way, who's the CEO of BlackRock, was interviewing him and asked him about robotics and things like that, and was very impressed by what he has seen. And Elon Musk says, we're going to get to the point that our robots are making so many robots, there will be more robots on the planet than human beings. Wow. That's something that, Don Fraun, we had to talk about that, I think, last year sometime. And he was really talking about humans being replaced in jobs, by the end of the year. And I thought that's a little bit aggressive, but there is that potential that all of a sudden we have robots doing all the jobs for us. And then Larry Fink asked a very good question. He says, then what's the human purpose, right? What's our thing to do? And Elon Musk danced around that one a little bit. I'll let you guys watch the video so you can see what his response was. But essentially, we'll get to the point where the robots are doing all the work for us, and we just get to sit back and enjoy life. Sounds great. Kind of wish I was 50 years younger, so I experience it as it comes. But hopefully, my golden years will be much more comfortable because of a robot assistant, just basically doing all the things that I don't want to do myself. He was loved until he went against the woke period. Yeah, he's a weird guy. My friend always uses this phrase, and it's, he's got a touch of the tism. I don't think he's got a touch. I think Elon's got, he's definitely, it's either Asperger's or he's on the spectrum somehow. But, I think that gives him incredible talents and drive to get things done. From the book, if you read the book on Elon Musk, sounds like he's kind of a jerk. Like he just doesn't have any conscious thoughts that he's being a jerk. He's just the way he is. But hey, I'm not a hater. I'm a believer, and I would never bet against Elon Musk business. That could be. They hate his politics. When you start going and dismantling jobs and ripping away funding and money that people have been just getting for free for years, always gonna make someone mad. Look, there's no way to make everybody happy. Even for me, I try my best to not polarize or alienate one, whether it's political party or religion or whatever. Whatever. I still have enemies. I still have people that can't stand me, so you never know. Rob says he knows how to make things happen. Look, I think I mentioned this before, and this is why I'm so keen on SpaceX's IPO. If you look at all the projects that Elon Musk has been working on and things that he's been building, we'll start off with solar. Okay, and now let's imagine a life on Mars. He said that his whole goal is SpaceX. The entire purpose of SpaceX is to have a multi-planetary species, not to be a commerce vehicle to make trillions of dollars, mining asteroids, but to find a planet, in this case, probably going to do on Mars, where we can have two human races versus one. Whether it's a natural disaster or human-made disaster that destroys Earth, whatever, at least we'll have another place where we can keep the collective knowledge through databases and actually start human species there. How do you do that on Mars, which has a surface that is just unbearable? Well, you first will probably need to go subterranean. You probably need to get under the ground and establish a colony or base underground. To do that, you would need the boring machine. So he's got the boring company, which has these giant worms that will dig underground, right? Okay, that's step number one, is how do we get underground. Number two is, and then people are like, well, humans don't want to go to Mars. You're going to die on the way. And the first few missions to Mars are probably just going to be robots. It's going to be Optimus robots that go there and assemble the worm to dig under the ground, build the infrastructure. But we don't have any power for the worm because you can't have fossil fuels there. Well, Solar City. His cousin started Solar City, so you have solar panels now because he's heavily in that technology. You can now have solar on Mars, collecting the energy to power the worms and to power the robots. Well, what about getting around? What do you do for transportation? Well, you're not going to have fossil fuels again, so what he's going to do, he's going to have electric vehicles, self-driving cars. You've got to have batteries to power that. You got solar for that to generate electricity to power the batteries. So it feels like all of these little things are combining, all of his business experiences are combining for one master goal of setting up another planet, which I don't know. I don't know if that's sci-fi, if I'm just watched too much Star Trek, or if I'm just too much the optimist, but seems logical that would be the case. And I'm right there with you, Liz. Liz says, I think I'll stick to living on planet Earth. Tell you what, I have zero interest in going to Mars. Look, I have a hard time with anxiety on a 5-hour plane ride. Hell, even a 2-hour plane ride, I got anxiety. You think I'm going to do well on how long does it take to get to Mars? Somebody here knows how long it takes to get to Mars. It's like 7 months or something? Yeah, 7 months on an airplane, crap quarters, or on a rocket. I would probably lose. I'd be the guy that went psycho on the rocket and just, I would not be able to tolerate that one. Someone look that one up for me while we're doing this, because I can't do it and talk at the same time. He has thought about nutrition. So Wolf says we're about 75 to 100 years from being on Mars. I think it's quicker than that. I think we're probably looking at like 30 or 40. 30 or 40. Has he thought about nutrition? So in that interview, he was talking about, Larry Fink asked Elon Musk about, the science behind elongating human life, because there's a lot of discussion on that now, longevity. And Elon Musk didn't really seem to be backing that. And he had some logical points, but I don't want to make the whole show today about 7 months, Jeff. Thank you. Yeah. Look, I flew business class to Thailand, and that was 21 hours of transportation. 21 hours. When I look at 7 months, you're talking 30 days times 24. That's 720 hours. No, times 7. Times that by 7. That's 5,040 hours. That's just a little too long for me. I'll watch the videos and I'll call them pioneers, whoever makes that trip first, and I will watch it on TV and I will celebrate. I will crack a nice glass of whiskey and cheers for that one. There's no way on this great green earth they're going to get me to go to Mars on a 5,000-hour flight. Yes, with the layover. So it was 16 hours to on the way to Bangkok. I flew through Beijing. So I flew through Beijing. I think I had a 1.5 hour layover there and a couple-hour flight from Beijing to Bangkok. And then on the way back, I came through Taipei. Mike says, Elon will be the first to come out with an immigration enforcement robot. All right, I'll read that just for the podcast. So that was pretty funny, Mike. He says, Elon will be the first to come out with an immigration enforcement robot called Optimum Ice. Good. Well played. That was funny. Like that. How come Gemini says 7 to 9 months to get to Mars, but a return trip would be 3 years plus? Because it's I think it has a lot to do with Earth rotation, and there's rotation of planets. So there's a specific path that opens up. But Elon Musk was talking about it in his book. It opens up like every 2 years. This window opens that allows you to get there much quicker. Getting back, hard one. I certainly ain't spending 3 years to come home. I mean, that's almost 4 years of your life just to go say you've been to Mars and back. I'll shake your hand and give you a hug and a glass of whiskey when you get back. There is no direct flight at Thailand, Rob, unfortunately. Not from LAX. I wish there was. It would be great. All right, let's go back. I got off track here, but we were looking at some of these charts from horrible perspectives. I mean, Apple, I still am not a fan of Apple. I mean, you guys know I can't trade it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Google, today, everything was up from the Magnificent Seven, but it's really the top stuff here. I believe, is it Jeff? Are you the one that's got long on Meta? I know one of you yesterday was like, oh, I just want Meta to go up. Today was a glorious day for you, for those that hold Meta. You were up 5.66%, big jump. I was kind of anticipating and expecting it to come down to that yellow box that I had down there at the bottom. Unfortunately, it didn't get there, and today just a big pop to the upside. It was your biggest movement piece for the Magnificent Seven, followed on the heels by Tesla at 4.14%. So these are just great movers today. Microsoft, which has been looking abysmal, has a bullish harami. Hallelujah. For those that don't know, bullish harami is a reversal pattern of a downtrend. And I'm not saying that Microsoft is going to have a big update tomorrow, but again, what would you do? In a situation like this, I'd be looking at this bullish harami formation, and I'd say if it breaks 452.84 tomorrow, and gets above that, then there's your buying opportunity. I still don't necessarily believe that this is done. For whatever reason, Microsoft's been looking very, very weak, but this could be that moment where you get a nice little pop up. You could add volume on this one too. We had I'm not going to say climactic volume yesterday, but certainly higher than normal volume yesterday. Today, a little bit lower, kind of normal volume, but bullish harami on Microsoft for those of you looking for trade setups for tomorrow. Amazon gave me a little bit of relief. Again, I'm not out of the woods yet. I've got to a close of market tomorrow to see where we stand on this one. But 232. Ooh, that says 232.30. I'm actually 232.50. Don't shortchange the audience here, Merle. Actually, hold on. 230 is my number. This is an old one. So 230 is my strike there. So I'm safe. Got plenty of room on this one. Which is probably why I saw the premium just disappear on my option. It was great. 99% winner already. NVIDIA, boring day. Real boring. NVIDIA just like a spinning top after a little bit of a bounce. If you read Bukowski's book on the Encyclopedia of Chart Patterns, typically when you have something in a downtrend that rallies up and has a spinning top, which is exactly what NVIDIA's chart looks like now, the statistics are higher that it's going to go down. It'll go in the direction of the prevailing trend. That they look at this pattern today as a hesitation pattern where a market really didn't understand which way it was going to go. And keep in mind, this is on a day when most of its peers did much better. This is pretty much all in a gap up. So in my mind, I'm bearish on NVIDIA for tomorrow just because of that pattern. We already talked about Google, and I saw the comment in here about the bear flag on Apple. Yeah. You're absolutely right, Wolf. You look at this and you've got, let's just draw it, right? Draw the picture. And you can do it from multiple points, but let's start with this one here. There's your impulse move down, and what I'm doing for the podcasters, I'm pulling the high from January 2nd to the low on January 8th. So that's the impulse move down, a strong, forceful corrective phase. And then you can look at the flag portion. Unfortunately, this thing's in snap mode. Let me take it out of snap mode. There's your flag formation there. And if we do the offset of this one, create a little copy, clone it, put it down to the bottom, you've got your break. And that thing lined up pretty good. Now, it didn't move the same distance. Normally, we'd take this as a measuring object, right? Now, if we look from the current flag, which is from the peak here on January 14th to the low on January 20th, you've got a pretty similar situation forming. And, who knows how this flag portion is going to look. But I do agree with you, Wolf. I think that this is starting to form a little bit of a flag pattern here. And that does not bode well for Apple. There's a lot of factors driving Apple's price right now. Certainly the chip makers and that type of thing, I think, are going to benefit Apple. But the price chart certainly not looking good. And that combine that with the fact, if you look over here into these October lows, let me put this back into snap mode. My apologies for doing so much artwork at the once. But you look at the kind of the lower end of this demand zone here, which we literally bounced off of today. If that doesn't hold, I think you're coming all the way back down to 227. So for those of you who can trade Apple, meaning not me, good luck with that one. This is a very clear, easy picture in my opinion, where it just looks like weakness in Apple. Whether you love Apple is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is price is showing something that I don't know about Apple, right? Remember, the price charts are supposed to Price charts are essentially displaying all that is known or knowable about a stock. And clearly there's some negative press out there. There's some bad news out there. Something's not quite right. And the institutional money is pushing this thing down. Well, there we go. I always have the 240 puts expiring tomorrow. You should be okay with that one. Should be okay with those. Yeah, Jeff, you sent in something about the FISV. I thought that was interesting. I didn't see the Nancy Pelosi thing, but you take a look at what's gone on with Pfizer, whatever the hell it is. This goes back to very similar picture to what we were seeing with Intel last year. You guys might remember my comments on Intel where I'm not touching it till it starts to make a higher high. For me, until it breaks $70.40, I'm not interested in it. Now, are institutions buying it? Is Nancy Pelosi buying it? Maybe. I don't know. I didn't look at those types of things. But if Pelosi is buying it, yeah, there is that general perception that she's a good stock picker, or a market manipulator, depends on how you look at it. And if more politicians are buying FISV, great. But technically, just hear me out. Technically, I'm not interested because the chart is just sideways. It's been sideways since December. It really has not done much. Now, you could make the argument and say, well, Merlin, you're a fan of higher lows and higher highs. Yeah, certainly the low we established just a couple of days ago is higher than the one from November. So, yes, it's making higher lows, but it's not making higher highs. So I would look at that line in the sand there until it breaks $70.40. I'm not looking at it. Again, the comment will be, well, you're leaving money on the table. Great. I'm happy to leave money on the table. I'm always happy to leave money on the table if by leaving it, it gives me a higher probability of earning it on the trade that I'm entering. I don't need the whole move, right? If a security moves $30 in price, I don't need to capture $30. Heck, if I can get $5 out of a $30 move on a stock, I'm happy with that as long as I position myself correctly. Talking of Intel, they reported tonight. When I looked earlier, they were down a decent amount. I did not see the earnings numbers for Intel. Yeah, man, down 10%. Woo! So they were supposed to. They apparently, from this, it looks like they had a huge beat on earnings. That's what it looks like. So they were supposed to come out at 7 cents, and they came out at 15. Let's go to my earnings calendar here and check that out real quick and see what this one says. We are on the 22nd today. Let this refresh. Yeah, Intel did beat earnings. They came out. They were supposed to be 8 cents. Came out at 15. So something clearly was said at the meeting after hours. You also had GE Aerospace beat earnings, and they're down 7% in the after hours. Well, they were down 7% today because that was before market open. After market close, I'll look at Intuitive Surgical here because Intuitive is one of the an AI play for many people. Let's go look at ISRG. Come on. Yeah, Intuitive Surgical actually is at a pretty dangerous point too. How many? There was someone in the audience. I thought it was Liz, or Lisa, but one of you, maybe it's Margaret. Maybe that's why she doesn't come on here anymore because I talked badly about ISRG filling this gap. We had talked about Intuitive Surgical and what a great run it's had, but it was kind of just going sideways for a while, and now you're right on the cliff. You have this huge gap that was formed between October 21st and October 22nd of last year, and we bounced off the top of it today at 522. Yeah, if that fills that gap, man, there's some big downside move here for Intuitive Surgical. So I'd be careful if you guys are holding long ISRG right now. Put a stop loss below 522. That does not look good. I mean, this thing had a great shooting star a few weeks ago on January 7th. Ran up above $600. Now we're at 525. If that gap fills, Intuitive Surgical is going to be down around 460. So not. If we get a day rally, I may short ISRG. Not a bad idea. I mean, this chart looks really bad, and just the huge void here on this gap between 522 and 462. You're talking a 60-point gap on that bad boy. That's 11, 12%. That's pretty significant. I'll zoom out a little bit more so we can see where this thing has come from. But Intuitive Surgical really, for all intents and purposes, for the past year plus, hasn't done much as far as rate of return. I mean, if I was to do a Fibonacci retracement from its peak in 2025, which was in January, to its low that we saw back here in April, let me stretch this out a little bit because it looks to me like we're right about a 50% retracement. Boy, you were right at confluence point too. For anybody who likes those magic numbers, confluence, we're in the middle of this massive range that it established in 2025. We're literally right at the 50% mark, and it's right above that gap. So this is not a good sign. ISRG, in my opinion, will probably have a little bit of a bounce, but if it breaks below 522 and closes below it, here's your short opportunity. Bam! All right, let me go to earnings calendar for mañana. We ran through some of them. You had Alcoa report earnings today. They beat. There's a lot of big beats, especially with some of the metals and mining companies. You see Alcoa's, they beat by 32 cents. Freeport-McMoRan beat by 67%. So they beat by 19 cents on their earnings, and Alcoa beat by 31. But both of them were down. Definitely a rotation from mining companies and metals into the equity indexes and metals themselves. Procter & Gamble, again, up 2.65%. So some pretty decent earnings numbers here. As we look at the screen, almost everybody's surprised on earnings except McCormick & Company and CSX. Tomorrow, Friday. Oh, man, I'm looking for... Why is this stupid ad? Get away from my ad. Go away. I just can't get rid of this ad. Anyway, for tomorrow, usually Fridays are rather light. You have almost a bunch of no-names in here. You've got Booz Allen Hamilton, you've got Moog, you've got Ericsson, SLB Limited, but nothing really that exciting. And on the economic front, there's not a lot of data tomorrow either, but there is a couple things. What I see for the U.S. markets, we have flash manufacturing and services. Now, that's really from everybody. We have Germany, you've got France, you've got the EU, you've got UK, and the United States coming out with flash services and manufacturing numbers. So that will be an interesting one tomorrow. Other than that, not a lot of big numbers coming out. SLB, so it should be Schlumberger, right? SLB. All right, why wait to the break of 70 on Intel? Downtrend already broken, and a solid uptrend now. Let me just bring up Intel so I can read your question while I look at the chart. Excuse me. Why wait to the break of 70 on Intel? I don't know what you mean by break of 70. We're not even close to 70. Intel is at $54 on the close. Now it's at 48. Yeah, I don't quite understand that comment there, Luis. But yeah, it's on a solid uptrend, but that earnings dropped it significantly. You're down 10% on that earnings announcement. Andy says, usually the fib is not a hold, right? Fib is, okay, so the 50% mark, for those that know, 50% on fib is not a fib number. It has nothing to do with Fibonacci whatsoever. It's not part of the sequence at all, but it's been added to all the Fibonacci retracement tools. It's in the defaults. So even though it's not truly a 50% retracement, a Fibonacci number, there still is a psychological drawing to the 50% retracement. Does it hold? Well, I don't know. At this point right now, because of that big move and where we're at, I think it probably will bounce. I think you'll probably see intuitive surgical bounce and then end up breaking it. But I am definitely in the camp of ISRG breaking, filling that gap from 522 and starting to drop down towards that 460 mark. Would not be good. Not good. Merlin, if you're not rooting for the Rams, are we going to I'm definitely not rooting for the Rams. I think Seattle's going to. I think it's either going to be Seattle or New England going to win the Super Bowl. Seattle, New England. I'll take those bets. Good price so far stock on Intel. Yeah, it is, especially with the money that's coming back in the United States for development and expansion of chip manufacturers. I think that's going to spur more competition, more growth, more opportunity. I don't know what was said at the press conference, which caused this to drop 10%. They obviously had good numbers, but I don't know. I wouldn't be buying Intel right now. Not even at 48. Just not feeling that comfortable. Have to get down to probably the low 40s. That we do. Will says, I'll wait for 35. Yeah, I think that's bad. I see Intuitive Surgical is up approximately $13 right now. ISRG. Yeah. Yep, ISRG is up 2.27%. Yeah, it's up about $12 right now in the after hour. So lucky there. All right. Okay, that's going to do it for me. No guest tomorrow. I'll have Bill Addis on next. Bill Addis will be on next Wednesday. I will not do a show on Tuesday because I'm going to be doing another event, but I'll let you guys know tomorrow about. I think I sent you the link to that session. So no show on Tuesday. I'll be doing that one for the Money Show. And if you guys have something you want me to discuss for tomorrow's show, let me know. I had questions, but I'll save those for tomorrow. I did get a couple questions that came through that I meant to get to, but Too late. I'm not doing an hour show. I'm tired. So you guys have a fantastic remainder of your day. We'll try to stay dry out here in the torrential downpour that is called the drizzle in Southern California. For those of you on the East Coast, stay warm, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Send me comments or things you want to discuss on the show for tomorrow at tradermerlin@gmail.com. See you tomorrow.